So far, we've seen how we can select things with the arrow, we can draw lines with the pencil, we can draw rectangles with the rectangle tool, and we can draw circles with the circle tool and arcs with the arc tool. Now we drew all of those shapes on the flat surface down here. But if we wanted to draw them on a vertical surface, we could simply change our view. And if we were to change our view, for instance, to the front view here, you'll see that the green line is going away from us, the red line is running across, and the blue line is running upwards. We don't need this figure, so I'll just click on it, press the delete key. Now if I want to draw a circle, for instance, and I start at the center point and go upwards, then I'm actually drawing that circle, and I'll just change the view so you can see this, and it's running on the vertical plane here. I'll go back to my front view. If I draw some lines, I'm actually drawing them on the vertical plane, and I can use those lines to be able to modify my two-dimensional shape. I'll go back to the three-quarter view, or what they call the ISO view, that's ISO, and you'll see the shape on the vertical plane here. Now this is important that we can do this because when we want to extrude these things into 3D shapes, it will depend very much on what plane we've actually drawn the 2D shape in the first place. Now this is a good time for me to show you these tools here, and this is the basic push-pull tool, which otherwise would be known as the extrude tool. And it's a bit like if you had this shape and it was a hole and you got some putty and you pushed through the hole, what you would get coming out the other side is a shape that would look like this. And so that's why it's called the extrude tool. And if I go back into the front view, you'll just see that from the front. But if you look from the top, you'll see it this way. And if you look from the side, you'll see it that way. Let's go back to the three-quarter view. You can modify this shape, and you can see that as I put my cursor or over the top of these surfaces, each one becomes selected. And if I were to press the mouse button down and push or pull, you can see I would actually modify or extrude that particular surface. The same with this one, and of course the same with this one. Now the next tool I want to mention, and I'll just get rid of this again, is this one over on the side here. Now this is called I can't remember what it's called. It's a tool that enables us to take an area either inside or out an area where the lines are parallel. Now I'll just draw quickly a rectangle, and if we use this tool and we click inside the shape and move the tool in a particular direction out towards the edge, you'll see that what we've got is a set of lines that are exactly parallel to the outside lines. And we can set the distance between the outside and the inside line by just typing it at the keyboard. And say, for instance, I want this to be 200 millimeters. In this case, I'm back in millimeters at the moment. That would be set as such there. Now the other important thing is, and I'll just undo that, the offset. It's called an offset, by the way. If we want the offset to be outside, we can just go outside, and if we give it a measurement, it'll set the offset up on the outside. This is a good way to make walls, okay, for things. So the offset tool is very, very handy, and it allows us to make parallel lines either outside or inside an existing shape. And the shape can actually be reasonably complex. If I take my circle tool and create a circle here, and then I take away the internal lines, like so, you'll see that the offset tool allows me to make an offset that fits inside that complex shape. And again, it allows us to do outside walls or surfaces or whatever of a particular shape. Now, The other tools that are involved here are the rotation tool and the move tool. And these are slightly more complex tools. Now what I'll do is take this more complex shape away, and I'll make a simpler shape. So I'll just create a rectangle, and first of all I'll use the move tool to show you that you can move any point on you can move it on the green scale, you can move it on the red, or you can even move it upwards here on the blue plane. You'll notice that it has a strange effect on things, but that will move a point. If you want to move a line, you go to the middle of the line and you can pull the whole line up or across or in any particular direction that you want to go. You'll be given a hint as to which direction you're going in by the color of the dotted line that follows it. So here you see I've got a blue dotted line, I'm going upwards. I've got a green dotted line, I'm going outwards. And here I've got a red dotted line, so I'm going off in the X direction. So that allows us to distort a shape considerably. The next thing we can do is we can move the whole thing by selecting the actual surface area and just dragging it around and moving it. Sorry, didn't mean to do that. And then of course we can put it back. Edit undo will always undo the last move that you made, and there it is there. Now this is very handy, as I showed you in an earlier video. For instance, if you're trying to create a pitched roof on something, you can simply use the move tool, go to the center of the line until the blue line appears as opposed to the shapes, and just drag it upwards, and you will get the effect of a pitched roof. Now you want to wait until the line goes blue. Having a little trouble getting it to go blue here. If you push the upwards arrow down, it'll lock it into the blue axis, and you can let it go, and you've just made a pitched roof. Okay, now the last tool is slightly more difficult to use, but nevertheless it does work. If you've got it's a rotation tool. So if you have a surface like this rectangle here, you can take the rotation tool and it will only lay on a flat surface. If you click the mouse once, move across on a particular axis, so I'm on the red axis at the moment, click your mouse down and click the mouse and then just move the mouse across, you'll see that I'm rotating the whole thing. And down in the bottom right hand corner it'll tell you how many degrees it's being rotated by. And if I just type 30 and press enter, that has now been rotated by 30 degrees. This can be very handy when you are trying to set up things that have a certain angle on them, and you know the angle but you don't quite know the measurements that you would need to achieve that angle. And I can demonstrate that very quickly by just taking this away. If, for instance, I go into the front view and I create a single line here, like so. If I take my rotation tool and I click on the line, run along the line, click again, and then start to move the line upwards like this. If I want it to be 30 degrees, I press click, type 30 and click, press, and I've just moved the line up to 30 degrees. So this angle in here will be 30 degrees. And that's a very handy thing when you're trying to do architectural types of work. So there it is, 30 degrees. If you want to just join that back down, you just follow the blue line down to the baseline, back across to the center. You've got yourself a triangle. You know that this is a 30-degree angle here. You know that this is a 90-degree angle here because it's square. And you know then that this will be a 60-degree angle because of the rules of triangles.